you guys tell us a little bit about the preparation, training, steps that you took or that you made to lead you to your current position?
Do you want to start? How do you want me?
Yeah, I'll start. Mine is a sink or swim method. It's basically, yeah, I could probably do that role and then I do it. I would say as a sales executive for 3 years, that was the longest position I've had with Marriott, and I was very adamant about my goal of wanting to be an account executive for over a year, probably a year and a half. I worked diligently. I shadowed a lot. I shadowed with Heather Miller and Eric Green and Holly Price and Andrew Romano, so 4 different account executives multiple times. I was in on a lot of strategy calls that I didn't necessarily have to be on. I really made my presence known that if there was an opening, I wanted to be an account executive. And so I did a lot of things that's really expected of an account executive for well over a year before I was able to have the opportunity to do it. And so I would say, if you are able, or if you have a leader who's very open to it, or even if you're interested in, a colleague, Heather Miller, I would definitely consider, even though she was on my team, I'd really consider her kind of like my mentor for sure. And so she was so open to, whatever you want, just ask. And so I would say, having someone like that to really train you ahead of time, so then when you're in the role, you're not completely lost, I think is pretty valuable.
I think for me, building relationships with my stakeholders too, I really feel that I kind of got the job at the Renaissance Schaumburg, and largely in part with Greg Bloom. Because I was on the downtown phone team, I had excelled in my role on core, and I had kind of done well with my numbers and things. And so I actually remember going to Amy Hawkins' office when she was with BE and sitting down and saying, okay, this core thing is great, but I want a new challenge. What do you see next for me? It doesn't have to be today, it could be 5 years from now, but what do you see next? So, and I actually sought her out, there you are, and said, what can I do to get to the next level? And she said, well, maybe you're ready for the next level, so talk to your stakeholders and things. And so I had a conversation with Greg Bloom, who I didn't really know very well other than just being our director of sales at the time for the Marriott Mag Mile. And now I have a great friendship with him, and that sort of got me ready to go at the Renaissance Schaumburg. And then when I was at Schaumburg, I sat in on as many long-range forecasts, which were tedious at best, but sat in on as many of those and really got to know my stakeholders there, from our general management team to the owners to all of that, as well as customers, to kind of get myself ready for, we did corporate, but on, we would do obviously we know our parameters, right? So the on-property parameters, but the same Verizon contact I had in catering, I now have in large group. So, and because I'm now selling that hotel, I still have that relationship with that client, so.
Amanda, do you want to tell them mine?
I'll let you.
So when I started with Marriott about 5 years ago, we actually had Rev Max training here, and it was Greg Bloom and Kristen Lindgren were the two presenters. It might have been my 4th week on the job, and right then and there, that's what I wanted to do, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So obviously it was a little early to jump into revenue management, but from then on I kind of set a path, and Amanda was very involved in this, and same with Jenny Manican, in terms of just career development. So it started with a lot of shadowing, mainly with the downtown team that I'm currently with, since they're relatively close. And then also just setting up mentors with revenue managers all over the country. I was put in contact with people in Phoenix and California, and kept in touch with them as just a reference in a different market, just to get a feel for their day-to-days and have that communication as to what the job is like and what the expectations are to get into a role like that. So not only the shadowing piece, but also a lot of it was on my own too, and looking at trainings on MGS, and anything that was picked up from shadowing, learning the verbiage, the systems that are used, were all contributing factors to helping me develop myself into getting into a role in revenue management. So it's a little bit of, obviously, getting to know people in that field helps, but a lot of it, since it's so different than sales, just kind of learning on your own and seeing what's out there.
Well, I'm a very action-driven person, and I like having a plan, both in my professional and personal life. So I know a lot of you know of the SMART plan. There is one, so I jumped at it, and I'm very specific. I like, putting action items in place, knowing my timeline. So early on, I met with Rebecca Dean, and we talked about not only my next step, but also my next. Because you want to kind of be, in line with what you're missing in your current role or what new things you want to learn to get to that next role. So not only did we talk through some things that I would need to do to get to my next role, but then also, future forward, what things I needed to do to get to that role. So everybody really touched on a lot of those things, really the relationship building, getting to know who's in those roles and really understanding that role. I shadowed Barry at the hotel when he was still the DSC there. So in just the day-to-day, really understanding, what you already know and what you can bring to that position, but then what you still need to learn, and going back to like my learning and things that you can do, on your own time. That certainly helps. And just really, like Megan said it too, like knowing the relationships. Like if you're looking at area sales, making sure you know the area sales leaders really well, their day-to-day, Heidi in her role, in the account executive role. But shadowing's a big piece, but obviously, you want to spend your time wisely shadowing. You don't just want to shadow just to shadow. You want to definitely find out about that position. But I would say if it's something that's interesting to you and you're excited about it, you got to go for it, regardless if it's up the ladder, if it's lateral on a jungle gym, if it's a step possibly below your current role, just to get those new tasks and those new things that can get you to that next role. It doesn't have to be that next higher up position. There's a lot of different options out there.